The developers behind Witchfire just released a roadmap outlining a lot of their plans for the game over the next 12 to 18 months, including changes to progression, adding a raid, and making the world more immersive. The game already has a great foundation, so let's take a look at how they plan to keep improving it as early access development continues. First off, they're aiming for 2 months between significant updates. That would be updates that provide new and reworked content, not just a few quality of life changes. Through their Twitter, you'll see they've already released 7 substantial patches since the game went live, which is pretty impressive for the size of their team. They've laid out the scope of the content they've planned out, which, if everything goes to plan, it looks like there will be a total of 6 different maps, with the final one, Witch Mountain, being a raid level with its own gameplay rules. By the time the game is out of early access, they'd like to have 6 total bosses. That would be 5 familiars and the final boss, the Witch. And for context, there's currently 2 bosses in the game right now. They'd also like to have 46 enemy types. There are currently 22 in the game. At least 31 weapons. There are currently 7. At least 24 magical items. There's currently 9. And at least 20 spells. Again, there are currently 9. They're also planning to add an unspecified amount of new traps, events, calamities, and something I'm very excited about, NPCs, which there are currently none in the game. That is a pretty crazy amount of stuff, especially weapons, so I hope they haven't bit off more than they can chew. The devs would also like to redesign and rebalance 3 core elements of the game. Those are 1, how the difficulty is more directly connected to the player's growth, 2, giving players more control over calamities, and 3, rebalancing arcana. Now, alongside these changes, the devs would also like to implement more lore and storytelling into the game, which is something dialogue from NPCs could help a lot with, because currently the lore is mostly just restricted to the opening cutscene and the description on items. In the roadmap, they've also mentioned a whole bunch of new features, some of which are pretty vague and won't really make any sense because they don't want to spoil the upcoming content. So they have things here like directed events, brain activities, unique boosters, and shadow orbs and shadow cubes. It's kind of impossible to speculate on what those could even be, but anything to make the world more interesting would be great. But there's also a few things here that everyone can get excited about, like sandbox modifiers, hidden areas and mirages, mid-run objectives, quests, new resources, collectibles, and light Metroidvania elements. Most of those things could really elevate the game to the next level, and things like quests and hidden secrets alone are super important for a game like this. I really hope they cram these maps with a lot of cool stuff in the future. They didn't outline any specific changes to unlocking items or leveling up, but progression is something that they've stated they will be changing. In my review, I spoke about how they rely way too much on researching instead of earning items through exploration and combat, so I'm hopeful they took that feedback to heart, because to me, finding cool stuff and earning it from defeating bosses is like half the fun of the game. And the only thing I haven't covered yet is the addition of more accessibility options. They've already addressed a lot of my complaints from launch, like the stamina blurriness effect, and they want to continue adding more options down the road. So that's what we're looking forward to in Witchfire's future. Unfortunately, no mention of a Steam release window yet. Fingers crossed that's a priority, but of course I understand if they want to get the game to a more complete spot before releasing it on another platform. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for more gaming news and updates, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Can't tell you I'm leaving. I can't even say no goodbye. I'll be going, but you know it. We'll never get to